Hello, welcome to today's stream. My name is Oscar and I work with the developer relations team here at Snap. Today we will cover how to create shared experiences in lenses. And with me, I have an incredible engineer, Jacob. Jacob, please introduce yourself and tell us about the project we're going to talk about today.
Hi. Hey, I'm Jacob. I work on the Lens Studio team at Snapchat. So I'm on the team that helps make templates, documentation, a lot of helper tools. And what I'm going to show you today is called Sync Framework, which is a tool to help you work on connected lenses or shared experiences. So we just actually released a template for Sync Framework last month. If you go to any version of Lens Studio and going all the way back to 4.28, you should be able to see it. So it will also work with spectacles if you're still using spectacles on that old 428 version.
Awesome. Before we go further, Jacob, just wanted to do a reminder to everyone. This is part of the series we're doing of workshops for the Lensathon that is currently running. We recommend you registering to the Lensathon. We have $200,000 of prizes. There will be 30 winners, and we can't wait to see what you build. You can build lenses until the 31st of January. So hope you can make it. We're going to put the link right in the description. So let's kick it off, Jacob, and looking forward to hear more of what you're going to present to us today.
Thanks. So I'm really excited to see what everyone makes. So this is the homepage of Lens Studio. You can see the top. We're just loading the project now. And we go. So like I said before, the whole point of Sync Framework is to make it easier to work on connected or shared lenses. So as you can see in my preview window here, I have it in interactive preview so I can walk around and kind of simulate like an AR experience. In case you haven't worked with connected lenses before, the important thing to do here is it'll have this button called Launch and then the name of your lens. So if we do Launch Sync Framework, it'll start the lens. And as you can see, this is like a pretty simple example to start with. We can go change this value up, change this value down, go over here, and move the sliders to change the color. The cool part of this is that it's all networked. So what we can do to test it out and actually see that multiplayer stuff working is I'm going to go click this button and send the lens to my device. And we'll see right away, as soon as I can get this lens on my phone.
I have a question, meanwhile, that we got in the chat, Jacob, maybe that I can tell you.
Sure.
Someone is testing connected experiences, FilmRec, sorry, I shouldn't name you. FilmRec is testing connected experiences with the Sync Framework, but apparently when he opens it, it does not open the friend list when inviting. It automatically joins a session with all the devices that the device is pushed to. And he's asking if it's something new. Are you aware of this?
That is a great question. So actually, that only affects if you're in development mode. This to get sent to my device. I think I had to update something. Sorry about that. I can show you this. So if we go into the Sync Framework folder and go to Connected Lens Module, there's this little tick on here that says join instantly. So when this is enabled, it will automatically join together all the devices. We join together all those devices. So that's really, really useful for testing, but it doesn't actually affect the published lens at all. So if you'd rather see that normal invite screen, you can just uncheck this and it'll show that invite screen like normal. But again, this is just for testing. If you publish the lens, this won't have any effect and it'll always show that invite screen. Yeah, so hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I'll just show a few more of the examples. So this one is showing off just, here's how we do a very simple shared value. So basically, we can define a value, and this goes up and down. These go left and right, and everyone in the experience can see the same value. Okay, hopefully something might be wrong with my network. I'm not getting pushed to my phone, but hopefully it should work now. I can show a few more examples in the meantime. This one is really cool. It's an air hockey example. So as you can see, we have an air hockey table and a few buttons. I can click game and start the game, and basically just play air hockey against another person. If no one else is playing, we can drag the other paddle ourselves. But let's see if this popped up. Okay, cool. So I'm going to push the device, and we should see me pop up on the other device pretty soon. But in the meantime, I can keep talking about this. The really cool thing about this this air hockey experience is that we can have multiple roles in it. So basically, like, there's two sides. You can say, I want to join this side or this side, or you can just be a spectator and watch everyone play. So it really easily scales up to have like as many people as you want. Here we go. All right. Let's push the device again. And I'll go back to the first example. All right, so as you can see, this is actually my phone avatar. So we're finally connected up. I can basically, both users have a little avatar that has their username on it. It's super, super cool and fun and easy to test just between Lens Studio and your phone. You don't need to make a build and send it to all your device. Tapping on my phone and changing these values. So this is, again, just like a super, super simple example. I'm going to go over here, come over here on my phone too, and move these around. So a simple one where we can do tap and just play a random tune every time. And it'll play between all the devices that are connected. Here's another one that is a little more complicated. This one is sending an event with data attached. So basically we can say here's a modification. This is really similar to the first example, but it's much more robust. So if you wanted to build a game where a ton of people could be changing values all at the same time, this one handles it in a really smart way where one person is like the host and controls it, and other people send them messages to change those values. But for most cases, you won't really need this. But for something like, I don't know, like an RPG where everyone is like damaging the boss like 8 times a second or something like that, this can be a really effective way to do it. So that's nice. Another really cool feature is persistence. So persistence lets you do asynchronous games where basically you can, like, if I move this stuff around and then I reset the lens and join it again, everything will be back in the exact same place I left it. This is really cool because if I'm playing with like a few different people, someone can go into the lens, move stuff around, change some values, maybe create some new objects, and then leave. And then someone else can come back a few hours later and see all the changes they made. So it's a really cool, really exciting thing. So that's a very simple version. Here's another example that shows also object instantiation. So basically we can tap the ground, spawn a bunch of blocks. We can also tap the blocks again to delete them. If I rejoin, everything is in the exact same place. So this is a pretty, kind of high level overview. I'll go into more of the scripting, technical details later. But this is just kind of showing, here's a lot of the features. can do with Sync Framework. And, hopefully they kind of inspire you to make some cool lenses for this lens-a-thon. Here's another example of persistent scoreboard. So this one, every time I tap it, it increases the score. I'm going to push this to my device. Hopefully it goes pretty quickly. But yeah, so this is cool because it's a persistent high scoreboard. Like every time I come back, it saves my last score, and it also shows the score of everyone else in the lens. 1 second. I think my connection is a little wonky right now. I'm having trouble pushing to device, but let's see if that gets a little better. We'll come back to the high scoreboard later. This is another really cool one. It's persistent player-owned objects. So basically, everyone has an object. It just gets randomly positioned, and it chooses a random prefab for the object. Every time I click, it increases the size of it. So this is pretty similar to the high scoreboard. Like it's basically just a scoreboard, but it actually like has a physical object for each player. So I'm pretty excited about this kind of effect because you could have like a garden where everyone has their own tree or own flower, or maybe everyone has their own house in a little city, and you can make changes to it over time, and people can come back and like see your changes. Here's one last little example. This one is mostly like a technical example, but this is showing how we can have different roles assigned. So like if you wanted to have like a lobby for a game, you could have like, okay, I want to be the healer, I want to be the warrior, or like, I want to be on this team, I want to be on that team, I want to be the referee, like whatever you want to do. This is a way where we can see which one we're connected to, or which role we have, and then which role all other players have, and it doesn't let you choose the same role that someone else already had. And this is using object ownership, which I can get into a little later, but it's really cool because it means that you can create an object and only you are the owner of it. No one else is allowed to modify it at all. So it's a really cool way to kind of organize and control who is allowed to change these objects and who owns them. We also have the avatar controller, which you saw a little bit earlier, like those little glasses that popped up. That is using the instantiator, which I can get into later. But basically, for Sync Framework, we have this helper class called instantiator that lets us just put all the prefabs we would want to instantiate in here, and then we can either instantiate them through scripts, or we can turn on auto instantiate, which lets us automatically instantiate a bunch of prefabs, and we've got control over the persistence, whether it wants to not persist forever, or only persist as long as the user is there, the owner is there, and also ownership, whether we want it to be owned or not owned. And yeah, let me try to push one more time the device so I can show off one more really cool thing, which is the hand avatar. And you can actually see a little preview video of this in the Lens Studio home screen. If you look at the template and just mouse over it, you can see a little preview of basically we have little hand tracking avatars. So if you want to play rock, paper, scissors, or shake someone's hand, or point at them, or count, or high five, or do whatever you want, you make it really easy to send your hand between them. It also works for both hands at the same time. So I think that's mostly only useful on spectacles, but it's a really cool effect. And yeah, let me see if it pushed. Okay, let's see. And really finally, I'm gonna turn back on join instantly. yeah, this is an important thing about this join instantly checkbox. If you want to test from Studio to your phone, like that needs to be turned on. Because as you can imagine, there's not really any way to invite Studio to join your session. So I turned that on. I'm gonna push again. Hopefully my phone gets it pretty quickly. Sorry about this. It's usually much faster. I think there's just something weird going on with my Wi-Fi today.
No problem. By the way, on my end, so we are getting a couple of questions, but these are more general questions. So don't worry, everyone. We will reply to them after the tutorial. I don't want to interrupt Jacob in the focus.
Okay, so as you can see, there's my avatar. Hope you can see that. And here's my hand. I'm saying hi. I'm facing the wrong way, but hold on. I'll just move this camera. Turn around so I'm facing. Okay, hello. Can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rock, paper, scissors. And this is a really cool and exciting feature. I've like messed around a little bit with different ways to interact with the hand, but I think there's like a huge field to explore here of just different really cool things where you can play games using the hands, you can use it as a pointer, just all sorts of really cool stuff, especially once you get physics involved. I haven't delved too deeply into any of that yet, so it's still a very wide open field, and I'm really excited to see what all of you can make with it. So are there any questions so far?
We have two general questions, but I don't know if I think we will address them after. They're not specific to what you're showing right now, so yeah, let's address them later.
Okay, cool. I'll just do one, try to get this air hockey scene showing.
And by the way, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If it is about what we're seeing right now, I will definitely ask Jacob about it. We have, by the way, currently 24 people, so thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so let's get this air hockey thing going here. You can see my other avatar. It just assigns you a random color on the glasses every time. But this is basically just like a prefab, so you can change the graphics to whatever you want. It doesn't have to be sunglasses. It can be pretty much anything. Okay, so I came over here. On my phone, I'm gonna go over here and start the game. So I don't know if you can see very well, but I'm moving the paddle. It's a little hard to play on both my phone and my computer at the same time, but it does work. So there's air hockey. And I saw already some people change the art on this and uploaded their own version, so that's really cool. Definitely a lot of room for improvement with my cube art that's going on there. But we want to keep the templates very simple, so it's fast to load and fast to save, and you can all put your amazing graphics on top of it. I think
it's very impressive. And Jacob, by the way, it's very impressive. But I also want to add, by the way, that not only we're the only one right now offering 3D hand tracking on mobile, but double hand tracking. So earlier, very briefly, we saw double hand tracking in connected lens. This is the first time ever I actually personally see it in AR. So it's very, very exciting. If that gives anyone ideas, please do them, because this is like literally everything has to be done, and this is so exciting. So anyway, thanks Jacob for enabling that.
Yeah, of course. I'm super excited to see what people can make with it too. And it's also, I think it's just a really cool way to communicate over remote AR also. So
someone has a question actually. Someone is saying they see the preview on the iPhone. They ask, does it launch in the real device, in the simulator, or other ways? So maybe can you explain a little bit how right now we're seeing it in Lens Studio and on your phone?
Yeah, sure. So in Lens Studio, I think what you're referring to is this little, maybe this drop down here that says iPhone. So Lens Studio has its own kind of simulator built into it, which is this whole preview window. When I change it to different devices, like I can even change it to spectacles. It's basically just changing for the most part, the screen resolution, like I can do iPhone 8 or iPhone X or Galaxy S9, or just do no simulation or horizontal for, like full landscape. And then for spectacles, it does a more specialized thing where it shows you like the exact like view that spectacles will have with the FOV and like the additive lighting and all that stuff. The way it looks on mobile is I basically it appears as a normal lens on my Snapchat account. So I know you probably can't see this, but anytime you push the device after you've paired your Snapchat account, it just appears as a lens in your carousel, and you can just join it like normal.
So right now you're able to connect at the same time the real iPhone with the simulator. Can you even do multiple iPhones in real time with the simulator at the same time as well?
Exactly. Yeah. So I have another device right here. I don't think it's charged, but you won't really be able to see it anyway. But
no problem.
Yeah, you can actually in Lens Studio. I don't know if many people realize this, but you can do pair new Snapchat account and keep pairing as many accounts as you want. So you can have like 5 devices connected to Lens Studio, and when you push, it'll push the lens to all of them. They'll all join the same session. So that way you can test from phone to phone, 5 phones at once, 5 phones to Lens Studio. It's also really useful if you want to test like Android and iPhone at the same time. You can even also connect spectacles. So like I could push and it'll appear on Studio, iOS, Android, and spectacles all within a few seconds. So it's coming from, I've done a lot of other multiplayer development, and it's usually a lot more of a pain to like, you have to like make a build and push it to all these different devices. But this is like super easy and simple. So I really appreciate it.
And actually the same person logo.
So I think we list a official limit. Yes. The limit is actually based on how many people can join a single chat session in Snapchat.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the limit is 64 participants right now.
Yes, but I will say that I've never actually managed to get that many people to test with me at the same time. So it theoretically can go up to 64, but I've done like definitely like over a dozen at once, and it all works pretty well. It's pretty cool, and that's kind of based on like the size of the chat room. So yeah, 64 people is the theoretical limit.
That's great. Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions for now?
We're good. I'm looking. Someone is saying, do I need all 5 devices physically? Can I have several digital phones? I don't know exactly what you mean by digital phones. You need to have the device, but you could be, so connected lenses is a feature that works at the same location, but also remotely. So you could use this feature with, let's say, your friend in the same room, but you could also have friends that are at the other side of the world or in another place in your same country. So it's very flexible. Yeah,
exactly. And you can even do some weird things where you, I don't know how supportive this is, but you can do like pair a new Snapchat account, and it'll show a QR code. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want anyone to pair to my Snapchat account who's watching. That might be fun, but maybe a different time.
Not today.
Yeah, not today. It'll show a QR code, and you can, send that to your friends, and they'll pair to your Lens Studio account. So like while you're testing, you can send it to people far away. I'm not sure what the question meant by digital phone, but hopefully that's helpful.
The Logoid development says great, thank you. So I think we replied to the question. He or her.
Okay, great, perfect. I think at this point I can maybe switch to a new project and just kind of show like how the basics of this work, like coding wise. And some of the like sort of helper tools that we can use to make projects. So before I go into this, I just want to say there's this really comprehensive and thorough and long guide to Sync Framework. You can find it on the website in the template section, but you can also find it directly from the Lens Studio framework template and go to like guide or more lots of GIFs. So hopefully it's like not too boring to look at. And it goes like a lot more deeply into all the different helper scripts, all the different API. It'll go a lot more deeply than I'll be able to go right now. But I just want to say this is like a super useful tool that I recommend if you're interested in this, like, just check it out.
Awesome, thank you. And by the way, by digital phones, he or she or they meant several simulators. Can you run several simulators at the same time?
Oh, I see. So in the preview window,
yes,
that's not possible in Lens Studio currently. Right now, you can just do one at a time.
Thank you.
Kind of like bare bones, minimum stuff required for Sync Framework to work in your project. So you don't have to start from the template. You can go to your existing project, just import Sync Framework, and it'll add everything you need right into the scene. So as you can see, it says launch Lensathon project. And I thought for this, we can try to do some kind of simple stuff because we don't have too much time. I'm gonna bring this little ducky into the scene, and we're gonna just do some really simple scripting to make this ducky connected across the network. So first I'm gonna make a new script. I'd also really like to recommend, if you don't already have it installed, the Visual Studio Code plugin for Lens Studio is super, super helpful. The main thing to know is you should always in Visual Studio Code, open the entire project folder. So don't just open a script, open the whole project folder. And at that point, we can get really, really good code hinting. So for this, I'm going to be using VS Code. That's my kind of editor of choice, but the built-in Lens Studio Code editor is also pretty good. I know a lot of people just use that. So that's also fine to use. So first, I'm going to make a new sync entity. So I'm going to say var sync entity equals new sync entity. And sync entity is basically the kind of core component of Sync Framework. So basically, a sync entity is like saying this is a networked object. And what I'm doing is creating a new one and connecting it to my script component. So from here, this is already basically a networked object. We've already succeeded in making this an online thing. The next important thing to know is that these objects are not immediately ready. We're used to just working in lenses and being okay, as soon as the lens is running, everything will just work. But everything gets a little more complicated with networking and online multiplayer stuff. So we have this helper function called notify on ready, and this lets us pass a callback function in the same way as if we're saying on touch start or on lens turn on or on awake. This is the same kind of thing where we're basically saying to this sync entity, notify when we're ready. We're gonna run this code. And I'm actually gonna make a function that's on ready, just for clarity here. So basically when we've joined the session, when the users click join, when they've invited people, when everything is all set up and everything's connected up, this code is going to run. So I'm going to just say print hi, just so we can make sure it's working. Okay, so I'm going to put this code onto the ducky. So when I connect to the session, it prints hi. Okay, great. Working so far. The next really cool thing to know is that we can add what are called storage properties to a sync entity. So I can say, let's just say like this doc has a score. So I'm going to say score equals, it's called score property equals sync entity dot add storage property. And here we can do a bunch of different types of storage properties. And what I like to do is storage property dot manual int. So this is basically saying we're creating a storage property that's an integer. We're going to manually update it. This is just a super simple way to do it. I'm going to call it score, and I can set the starting value to 0. So what this does is basically add a new property to this network entity. So I can say, like, you know, score prop dot set pending value, and I'm going to set it to 1. So that means that when we join the session, it's going to set that value to 1 instead of 0. So, you know, properties by themselves don't really do much, but we have some helper scripts we can use that will display those properties. So I'm going to make a text object called, it's called score display. And I'm going to go into the sync framework folder, look at utils, components, go to sync helpers, and we're going to look at display storage property. So what we'll do is drag that onto here. As you can see, we need to set a target, and that's just going to be the object that had our script on it. We have to set the property key. I'm going to set it to score because that's what we called it. And I think text will automatically be filled in, but let me fill it in. We can also say like what value to use or what to display if the value is undefined. So I'm going to say not connected. So let's make this look a little cooler. I'm going to add a background. Okay, that should be easier to see. So now, hopefully, if everything goes right, as you can see, it shows our score property of 1. That's, you know, not super exciting yet, but what we can do is do something like this, where we do script.create event. Let's do tap event, tap find. And here we can do score prop dot set pending value. And we'll do score prop dot current pending value plus 1. So this basically means like when we call set pending value, it is sending like what we'd like the value to be. Basically, there's a lot of advanced stuff like rate limiting, so we can't, that'll all get handled automatically if you turn it on. But when we say set pending value, that's saying, here's what I want the value to be. That's what it'll be locally. And as soon as we can, we're going to send that out to all the other players. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting the new value to the current value plus 1. So hopefully when we test this, every time I tap, it'll increase that value by 1. Now I'm going to send it to my phone so we can make sure it actually works over the network, because that's always obviously the most important and exciting part.
Maybe just one question meanwhile.
Yeah.
Logo development again is asking, where is this code running? Is it a NOT server or on device? I guess it uses WebSockets underneath, so it must go through a server. Are those managed and hosted by Snap-on? By the way, Jacob, please feel free to reply only to what you can say, but maybe you can give an overall idea.
Yeah, sure. So basically, there is a server. You don't have direct access to it, but you can access it through the API that we provide. So built into Lens Studio is an API that lets you do a lot of basic stuff like send message and create real-time stores, which are basically like tiny dictionaries that are synced across the network. Sync Framework is built on top of that, so every sync entity is kind of a wrapper for these real-time stores. This is, getting into technical detail that we probably don't need to cover right now. But the short answer is that most of the code is running on the client, like all the game logic will be running on the client, but the server acts as sort of like both a relay for messages and value changes, but also for like storing data. So it's kind of like a relay and like a database.
Is it part of Lens Cloud?
I think it is classified as being part of Lens Cloud.
Yeah. I like what you say. Well, sounds good.
Yeah. And thanks for the question. That's a good question. As you can see here, I'm on my phone. I'm every time I tap my phone, it increases the value on the ducky. So that's pretty cool. That's nice. I'm going to show another really cool helper, which is sync transform. And this one is very useful because it basically means if we put this on an object, then it's automatically going to sync the position, rotation, and scale of it across all devices. So right now I have it set to, we can say like for position, rotation, and scale, do we want it to be local, world, or none? So I'm just going to leave it for position and rotation. I'm going to set it to local, and we don't need the scale, so I'm just going to leave that up. We can set persistence. I'm just going to leave it as session. But if you want, you can set it to persist. And then every time you move the object, when you come back to the lens, it'll go back to the place that you left it at, which is pretty cool. But we're not going to get into that for this quick demo. The next thing is sends per second. So there's a send rate, which I think we publish in the connected lenses documentation somewhere. But basically, you can only send a certain amount of messages per second. Because obviously it's just going to clog up the network, and when people are on mobile devices, like on not on Wi-Fi, like they can't get that many messages. So what we can do is set this sends per second limit. It's like set to 10 by default, and we can also turn on smoothing, but that only works for objects that are owned. So we're not going to worry about that right now. So basically, what this means is that this ducky, and I'm actually going to move it over to the other object. This ducky will now have its position synchronized across all the devices. So let's test that real quick by making it so that when we tap, it just changes the transform position to some other value. So I'm going to set it to 500. So every time we tap, it's going to change the position, and the sync transform should synchronize that across all devices. This is a pretty boring example because we're just, tapping it and moving it automatically, but we'll make it a little bit better. Okay, so I tapped on my phone and it moved the ducky. That's pretty quick, so I'll just start over and do it again. So I tap on my phone and the duck moves. So that's pretty cool. We can make it a little more exciting, maybe by doing like a random position. I think we have okay. There's this really cool class that got added recently called MatthewTills, and has a lot of nice things like random range. So I'll do -5 to 5. And now every time we tap, it'll move the duck to a random position. We're going to make it a little more exciting where we can move the duck to a certain point on screen and everyone will see it. But let's just start with baby steps. Okay, so every time I tap, it moves the duck to a random position. I can also do it in studio, and it will be synchronized on my phone. So, you can basically, if you have an object that's moving around in your lens already, you can just put a sync transform component on it, and it'll basically just synchronize the position, rotation, and scale across all your devices. You don't have to do any extra work. Let's do something more exciting though. So now every time we tap, we're going to get the event data and we're going to get the tap position. So this is the screen position of the tap. So now if we want to get the camera, another really cool thing about the Lens Studio VS Code plugin is that we can have these really cool snippets. So I'm going to just do camera input, and it immediately creates a camera input and redeclares that so I know the type and all that stuff. So now I can just do my camera dot, I think it's screen space to world space. So I'm going to give it that tap position and give it a depth. Let's just say, I don't know, like 10. And do world position. So now I can do, I'm going to set the transforms world position to this position of the tap. So if I did that right, we just need to hook up the camera. Can I test it locally? Oh, that's way too close. I'm going to change this to maybe more like, I think 40 is the default. So now every time we tap, it moves around. And as I left my phone running, but as you can see, it's already working. So I tap the studio, it moves the ducky to like the position I tapped. I pushed the device, it should do the same thing. Are there any questions right now?
No, it's going well. There's some. I'm reading. No, it's all good. It's all good. Okay. Everything has been answered. Okay, I keep a couple general one for once you're done. So.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah. So this is cool because now I can just tap on my phone, and it moves the ducky to the position I tapped. So obviously this is super simple, but just trying to get the most basic stuff working in this like pretty short time. And as you can see, we already have an object moving between devices, so that's pretty fun. Another thing that's really cool we can do is instantiate new objects. So I'll do, instead of whenever we tap it'll move this object, I'm going to show off the instantiator. So I'm going to make a new scene object. I'm going to call it instantiator. I'm going to move it up here. And I'm going to put the instantiator script on it. So basically the way this works is we can add prefabs to it. I'm going to make a new, let's just make it a box. Or actually I changed my mind, a sphere. This will be our little prefab that we're gonna use. I'll get a little smaller, turn it into a prefab, and add it to our instantiator. So what this means is basically we can now instantiate this prefab across the network. We can either do it through script, which is what we're going to do, or do it automatically. So if we do auto instantiate, that's really useful for things like player avatars, where as soon as you join the session, you'll immediately instantiate the player avatar for yourself. But we're just going to stick with doing it through script for now. So I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to go back to VS Code, and we're going to make an input for a script component and call it instantiator. But you can call it whatever you want. Another cool thing, a little tip for VS Code users, is you can say that this is an instantiator. And because I declared that, what that means in this instantiator script, like I now have full type hinting for this variable. So long story short, I can say instantiator dot, and then like I get all these cool type hinting, so I can see, okay, so I've got notify and ready and instantiate and all this good stuff. So I'm going to say instantiate. I need a reference to the prefab I want to instantiate, so I'm going to add a prefab. And that's pretty much it. We can add a bunch of other options to it, but and I think one of them we'll do now is world position. So instead of setting the ducky world position, we can set world position of this new object. And yeah, I think that should just work. So basically sorry.
I was going to say, just someone asked, but I may have missed exactly when it was. Is the script necessary? Can't we use the patch? But I think it was maybe like 20 seconds ago. So, but I'm not sure if you know what it was talking about.
Is the script necessary? Can we use the patch?
Can't we use the patch? But it was when you just set it up. I don't know. If it's not clear to you, it's okay. Maybe please try here. Put more details into the comment section. We're not sure what you mean. Thank you. Sorry, Jacob.
In case you're asking about the visual scripting editor, like maybe you mean like a patch editor.
That's you're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there aren't currently like custom nodes set up for this, but that would be a really cool thing that we can add in the future. It's definitely possible to do all this through the visual scripting editor, but right now it's not. We don't have all the custom nodes set up to do it, but that would be really, really cool, and I think we'll definitely look at adding that in the future.
Thank you.
Yep, and yeah, thanks for the question. Okay, so it looks like it's working. Every time I tap it, instantiates this cool sphere. Now let's see if I jump back to the lens. I can see that those spheres are in the lens too on my phone. So now if I tap on my phone, it'll put those spheres into Studio. So that's really cool. That's exciting to me. As you can see, it doesn't take that much code. It's a little bit complicated, but there's a lot of examples of how to do this in the template and in the documentation. And it's much, much, much easier than it used to be. When we first released connected lenses, we didn't have nearly close to this many like tools to make it easy to use. So I'm hoping that this will make it a lot easier, more straightforward, more simple, more shareable for people using connected lenses. Because if you make something that uses Sync Framework, it should be pretty simple to bring it from one project to another. As long as they both use Sync Framework, it should be pretty easy to just take that thing, put it somewhere else. The same way that like behavior script and tween are kind of like this basic building block. I'm hoping we can make all these Sync Framework tools more and more easy to use, and hopefully even do much less requirement of scripting. So like we'll be adding some Sync Framework functions to behavior scripts. We'll be adding more helper scripts. So I know a lot of this looks a little complicated from the scripting side, but we're gonna just make it more and more easy over time.
Awesome, great. So I have a couple questions that I was planning to ask you after. Are you done with the tutorial in itself, or is there a couple more things you wanted to address?
Yeah, I think this is a good stopping point.
Awesome.
And I can add more if the questions like pertain to
that. Yeah, sure. So I mean, let's dive into the general question, and please everyone, feel free to drop your question now. It's almost been 1 hour, so we will ask the questions as long as you're keeping asking. So as long as you keep asking them, I will ask them to Jacob. So please do it now. So anyway, first one that was a while ago from FilmRec. He was saying also there is a simple avatar instantiator script example in the Sync Framework documentation, but for some reason it does not work when require invite in the Sync Framework core is not checked. I imagine this could be because the avatars are instantiated in the first unconnected event. Yeah,
that's pretty likely. I can look at that right now. We might just have to add a like a notify and ready or something. I'm not sure exactly what's not working there, but yeah, the simple avatar. I'll take a look at that.
Okay, it's okay. With FilmRec, we can get back to you on this. Thank you for the question. Next one. There was someone was asking, does connected lenses work with product catalogs? As far as I know, it doesn't as of today. Can you confirm, Jacob?
Yeah, I don't think it does. I think there's some.
Yep.
It's not in the scope of Lens Studio. It's kind of
Exactly
the scope of the ecosystem. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's quite different. But obviously, if you want to integrate any shopping feature that you have in your mind in AR, feel free to create them. And to be the first to do so with connected lenses. Maybe one, I mean, it was a bit specific question from Logoi Development, but it's a good question too. Will the experiences run on non-Snapdragon Android devices like the new Pixels with Google custom chip? I've heard there were problems with them. I think it shouldn't matter. Can you confirm, Jacob?
It should not matter. Like we definitely any iOS and Android phone, within reason, going back however X many years, like we want to support it. If it's not working right now, then it will be working soon. Like basically any Android or iOS phone, going back at however many years within reason, we won't be supporting like iPhone like 2 or something like that probably. But yeah, like it should be working, and if it's not, then please let us know.
Sure. One more question just got from Kevin. What is the difference between Lens Studio and the ecosystem? So I think what we meant really is that, so basically everything you're seeing here using Lens Studio, to build AR experiences, mostly Lens Studio, is separated from product catalogs because the feature product catalogs is, I believe, a tool that is separated via the website, which is made to more like do it at scale, to generate these products at scale, which is not in Lens Studio, but at the end of the day, it will be a Lens experience. Is that how would you summarize as well, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the product catalog, but I don't think
it's a business feature that is made for retailers. So that's why it's let's say a simplified experience for them. That's why you don't have it directly in Lens Studio. I hope that makes it more clear. Awesome.
I will say, if you have any requests, like if you'd like that to be part of it, then definitely contact whoever you would contact for that feature for support, and maybe we can add something for it.
Yeah. So awesome. I think we have replied to all questions. I don't see any more questions. We're still having 22 people, so thank you everyone for joining this call. I think that will be it. Will be a wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining. And Jacob, I let you say the last few words.
Thank you so much, Oscar. Thank you so much everyone for joining. I really hope that you make some awesome lenses for this lensathon, and I really hope that you can make some cool connected lenses too. And
awesome.
Check out the Sync Framework documentation. Ask questions on the forums if you need help. We're here to help.
And one more thing before I forget, as a reminder, in case you skip different parts of this call, we have a lensathon running right now until the 31st of January with $200,000 of prizes for 30 winners. So we can't wait to see what you build with this, and we hope today give you great ideas. So please sign up. We're going to put the link in the description, in the chat. But thank you everyone for joining, and see you for the next workshop. Thank you. Bye-bye.